Welcome to the shooting show. This week we go back to the depths of winter, where I take executive producer Wes Stanton on a Chinese water deer hunt, plus Byron looks at an impressive little rimfire from Anschütz. We're back in Bedfordshire after Chinese water deer with the show's executive producer, Wes Stanton. There are plenty of deer in the area, so I hope I'll be able to guide my guest onto a suitable culbuck. We set off early in the morning to try our luck in a high seat first. The weather conditions are difficult. Frost-capped snow and an ill-favoured wind mean we're risking the deer catching our scent or the sound of our footsteps, but we make it to the high seat unobserved. The high seat overlooks a field popular with deer, but its proximity to a road means it's essential we're mindful of the safety aspect. Kitted up and ready to go, we climb the high seat and begin the vigil. This deer gets bolder and ventures further out of the woods into the open space in front of us. It doesn't stick around for long though, so we sit back and continue to watch and wait. We spy a group of deer browsing further off. We keep our eyes on them, but it doesn't look as if they'll be coming in any closer. The morning is quickly getting away from us, and no suitable deer have presented themselves. We decide to take a different approach and risk a foot stalk through the snow. We prepare to set off on foot. Almost instantly a new vantage point opens up and we spy a parcel of deer, but it's not clear if any of them are shootable. There is some deceptive dead ground hidden behind a steep bank. I crawl in for a closer look at what's there.
Just on the brow that we wouldn't be able to shoot.
Wes seems less than keen to get his hands dirty and waits for the results of my recce. The crawl proves fruitless, and the pressure is beginning to show. The day is brightening quickly, the roads are getting busy with traffic, and we still haven't laid eyes on a suitable buck. It's back to the vehicle to collect the kit and plan our next course of action. We set off, keeping close to the hedgerows for cover.
There's 10 still on that hilltop. We can't quite see just over the brow of this one.
No,
I reckon there's 4.
There is 4 in there.
We've located some potential quarry, but their position is difficult. There's nothing for it, we'll have to break cover and cross the open ground.
Decent buck.
You can carry my leg and see it.
I missed it.
Eh?
I didn't see the buck.
Yeah, it went through. It's just there.
I spotted a buck that looked to be wounded, but it saw us and took off. We'll have to try somewhere else.
We'll have to get around in there, but the problem is those deer have gone over the top and they're attacking them far that was in the bottom. We've still got a nice 10 or 12 on that top to go for, so if we skirt up here.
We decide to head for some higher ground. I'm hoping we'll be able to get into some cover from which we can observe the deer unnoticed.
bit difficult to get where we want to be.
Where are they? Just out in front.
Just out those two there. There's 4 on that side, but we need to be in this corner.
We managed to make it without being seen, crouching low the last few metres so we don't give the game away at this crucial stage. I think I've spotted a suitable culbuck. However, he's in a tricky position with a road behind him.
The buck's the left-hand one. We'll have to be careful when we get over the roof. Just go very, very slow.
We move slowly so the deer doesn't spot us. I'm conscious that the buck is in an unfortunate position in relation to the road, so we wait to see if he'll move to present a safe shot. He seems to be coming our way, but just our luck, the buck couches up in an inconvenient hollow in the field. Happily, the buck gets up again before too long and brings a mate up with him. The buck is on the move. I instruct Wes to pin him through the shoulders to prevent him running onto the road, and we continue to wait for a good shot opportunity when the buck has a safer backstop. The buck has moved out of line with the road and the shot is finally on.
Okay, when you're ready. Yes, left.
Wes cycles another round, just in case it's needed, but the shot looked good, the deer went straight down as required. We approach the buck with caution, and I use the shooting sticks to confirm the buck's death. The buck is a good cull specimen and the shot was clean.
Is that on the high side, do you think?
No, it's perfect. Went straight down. It was a little bit far forward into the shoulder, but we didn't want it running across the road, so that was the best place to put him straight down.
Okay, cool.
Very nice representative buck. Well done, Mr. Stanton.
Thank you very much.
It's time to get the buck off the field and into the larder. After a difficult start in tricky conditions, determination and straight shooting won through in the end.
So Wesley, that was a difficult stalk.
Yes, it seemed like we weren't going to be able to get anywhere near those deer. I've never seen Chinese water deer before. It's a bit like trying to stalk a hare in the middle of a field.
Yep.
But the wind got up, it changed direction. We were able to get to a good point of vantage, and sat it out for a few minutes, and two moved into us, and we were able to take a shot.
Yeah, it was bloody difficult, to be fair. As you say, the wind wasn't quite in our favour. Never push a bad position, but we skirted the wind and we flushed a few. I think the problem was there was so many. There was 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there, and then moving them, and then they were moving the ones on in front. But eventually we got into that briar patch where I wanted to get, which is quite unorthodox, because the only way to do it was walk straight across the field and hope that we didn't disturb them, and that actually worked.
That's right. We went across that field of ploughing, and they were getting up in front of us, and we couldn't see them. And we were just very fortunate that we managed to get up to that briar patch without spooking every single deer within the whole of Bedfordshire.
Yeah, I know it's your first time here, but that dry patch has been quite good to me in the past. If you can get up there, it's a very, very good vantage point, and it's pretty much the crown of a hill. And as you say, the wind came round more in our favour, which was great. And then, fortunately, there's the two groups, but the two Chinese water deer came forward to us, and there was a shootable buck in there. Nice representative buck, nice one to shoot.
Yeah.
I'm sure the keeper will be happy. Although a happy keeper is a contradiction in terms.
Indeed, because you never tip him enough, do you?
Finally, an Asian invader in the bag there for Wes. And now, the shooting show news.
This is the shooting show news. The Scottish airgun licensing consultation did not follow the correct procedures, an independent watchdog has found. The Regulatory Review Group in Scotland found that the consultation did not carry out a business and regulatory impact assessment. BUZZARD has asked policy officials what they will do to rectify this. Airgun licensing is still set to go ahead in Scotland, but the Scottish Parliament's Public Petitions Committee will meet in September to discuss a petition against licensing, signed by 14,000 people. For more news, don't miss Airgun Shooter magazine. The Badger Cull pilots will start in August, says a chief constable in one of the Cull areas. The two pilots will take place over 6 weeks in two areas in Somerset and Gloucestershire. Pilots were originally planned for last year but cancelled at the last minute. Now they are set to go ahead after a final challenge in Parliament was voted down. More news in the next issue of Sporting Rifle. Holland and Holland introduced MPs to the British gun-making industry in a recent factory visit. In a trip organised by BASC, the all-party parliamentary group for shooting and conservation visited the firm's London factory to learn about the processes involved in modern-day gun-making. Group Chairman Geoffrey Clifton-Brown commended the company on its incredible and dedicated effort in supporting a British industry. A charge of unlawful hunting against a huntmaster has been thrown out of court. The case against Quantoc's Brian Palmer was based on surveillance by the League Against Cruel Sports, but the charge was discontinued owing to a lack of evidence. Speaking after his acquittal, Mr. Palmer was outspoken in his criticism of Lax. He said being stalked by self-appointed hunt monitors is very unpleasant, as are the repeated allegations against the hunt. And finally, the National Gamekeepers Organisation has signed Mossy Oak and Rivers West as official camo and clothing partners of its Deer Branch. The NGO's Deer Branch chairman David Wiggins said both brands have a reputation for delivering what's needed to let gamekeepers get on with the job, while Mossy Oak's Toxie Haas said he was proud to partner an organisation that shared his love and appreciation for wildlife and the outdoors. More in the next issue of Modern Gamekeeping. That was the shooting show news.
For the first time on the shooting show, we're not going to be having a look at a full bore rifle. Instead, we're having a look at this Anschütz 1517 in 17 HMR. Now, Anschütz as a company don't really need any introduction. They have walls full of Olympic medals and screeds of world records to their name. There is absolutely no doubt that they can build exceptionally accurate rifles. What we're going to be doing is having a look at this rifle, which is built on their famous Match 64 action, and see how it fulfills the application of hunting. If we start off with how the rifle feels, the first thing you will note is that this particular model is the thumbhole stock version. Now, what's interesting about the thumbhole stocks is these thumbhole stocks are actually made here in the UK, and I have to say, of all the thumbhole stocks that I've used which have been made out of wood, this is by far the most comfortable. It just sucks into your shoulder so comfortably, and the way that your hand just fits in on this palm swell around the pistol grip here, it just gives you this rock steady platform. It's in quite a nice grade of wood, and checkering is where you would expect it to be. It's nice and crisp in the hand, and in terms of the ergonomics of the stock, they've absolutely got this right. And from a hunting application point of view, it doesn't really get much better than this for being able to hunt out of a vehicle. It's certainly very comfortable and helps you move around when you've got a good grip of the rifle. And what furthers that is the fact that this rifle has a particularly short barrel. And you will notice here, if you look, it's a lot shorter than you will probably be used to. This is an 18-inch barrel. Anschütz also make this in 14 inches. I think that's brilliant for a 2.2 rifle, but personally I think 14 inches is probably a little bit too short to make the most of a 1.7 HMR. But in its 18-inch form, you put a moderator on the end of this, you can move in and out of the vehicle very easily indeed. I've already said that this rifle is built on the match 64 action. Now Anschütz actually also make a match 54 action, and that is generally accepted to be the superior platform. However, you will pay more than twice as much to have a rifle built on a match 54 action. Anschütz realised that the high expense of their match 54s was excluding a lot of people from owning an Anschütz rifle. So they went back to the drawing board and designed the match 64, stripping out the really expensive parts of the manufacturing process. And what they were left with was a rifle that was far more affordable and yet maintained the incredible levels of accuracy that you would expect from an Anschütz. If we start with the bolt and action, the first thing I'll tell you is that this is probably the smoothest feeding 1.7 HMR I've ever used. As I loaded up the first round for the first time and cycled through the 5-shot magazine, I was definitely taken with how smooth it was, and it definitely brought a bit of a smile to my face. The bolt itself has a swept back handle with a big substantial synthetic bolt knob. It's really easy to grip however you want to load it. If you palm it or grip it, certainly we'll have no troubles with that. The bolt is a little bit unusual. If I just remove it by pressing forward the release and the trigger at the same time, you'll see that it's actually quite a long bolt for a rimfire, and the reason for that is that you'll see that the bolt handle actually sits about a third of the way along, as opposed to a CZ, which is right at the back. The other thing which is a little bit unusual is that you'll notice at the back here the cocking piece is actually visible, and so is the separation in the bolt. Now when you pull the trigger, you will see that the cocking piece flying forward, which in turn pushes the firing pin onto the rim of the cartridge, and like you would expect from an Anschütz, has a very fast lock time. Not as fast as the match 54, but it's still very fast. The only criticism I would have of this is if you have a look closely, you will see that even when the bolt is in the gun, there is still a bit exposed between the cocking piece and the rest of the bolt. Now, that in itself isn't a problem, but from a hunting perspective, although I have never heard of any problems, it just makes me wonder what would happen if you did get some grit or dirt down in between the cocking piece. And if you got a little pebble or something, if you were crawling, it might stop the rifle from going off. Ejection is achieved via 2 claws gripping around the rim of the case before it hits a solid stop at the end and ejects it out of the ejection port. Now everybody knows that one of the essential components to building an accurate rifle is to have a superb trigger. You need a really light, crisp break to shoot accurately. And knowing that Anschütz build some simply excellent target rifles with some brilliant triggers, you would expect the same to be in their target rifles, and indeed you won't be disappointed. It is the same mechanism and components that are used in their hunting rifles that they use in the rest of their target models. So I was a little bit surprised when I got this rifle to find that there was creep in the trigger. Now I wasn't sure who had had it before me, and it's possible that somebody had been tinkering a little bit, but I knew that they were adjustable. I put it on the workbench, and I adjusted the sear engagement and the trigger pull, and eventually got the trigger to where it should be. And as you would expect, the trigger break on the Anschütz is fantastic, if not possibly the best trigger unit of any rifle that I've ever fired. Now this particular rifle has a single stage trigger. My friend has an almost identical rifle but in its 2.2 form, and that has a 2-stage trigger, and I have to say the 2-stage is particularly nice. Now in terms of the trigger blade itself, it is just the right width for my finger. I like a nice fat blade. Could possibly do with being a little bit wider, but it has a really nice curve on it. And one thing that I particularly detest on triggers is triggers that are completely smooth. You want something that you can grip and feel in your finger, especially if you're going to be shooting outside in all conditions. And you get that in the Anschütz trigger with these nice ridges. You can really feel it on the tip of your finger. Moving on from the trigger to the magazine, you'll see that the magazine is a pretty straightforward affair. There's nothing particularly fancy about it. It's very similar to a lot of rimfire magazines on the market. It is an all-metal construction with the exception of the bottom, which is embossed with the Anschütz logo. It is a little bit trickier to feed than my CZ magazine due to the shape at the top, but once you get the knack of it, it's not too bad. But it certainly feeds very well out the magazine, and that is essentially the most important thing. In terms of how it fits into the rifle, there is something most definitely worth noting here. Now, a lot of rifles, to drop the magazine out, you'd simply depress the release and the magazine would drop into your hand. This release you have to hold continually the whole time that you're taking the magazine out, because it is gripping the magazine not just where it attaches when it's fully inserted, but all the way until it's out in your hand. So you have to do this and slide it out. If you let go of the catch at any point during removing the magazine, say halfway, it'll grip it and the magazine will not fall out. That took a little bit of getting used to, but it's a really good safety feature because it means that if you do inadvertently knock the latch, and that would be difficult because it's quite stiff anyway, you're not going to lose your magazine. It's probably become apparent that I really do like this rifle. But the one thing of the rifle that I really don't like is the safety. The safety catch on the Match 64 action really is the weak point as far as I'm concerned. Now, the Match 54 had a side lever which was on the back of the receiver, but the Match 64 is fitted just behind the bolt on the right hand side of the rifle. Now, in terms of positioning, this is exactly where I like a safety catch to be. However, the actual operation of this safety is a little bit unpleasant, and that's for two reasons. The first is the actual shape of the safety catch itself, which ergonomically is quite poor, and you certainly wouldn't describe it as a comfortable safety catch to use, especially in cold weather conditions. The second is that the safety catch is also quite stiff, and I thought that this might just be this particular rifle and the fact that it's quite new, but having used a couple of other Anschützes with Match 64 actions, it seems to just be a trait of these rifles. Removing the woodwork lets you appreciate the simplicity of the design of the Match 64 action. The receiver is basically a well-machined tube attached to the barrel via this pin just here, and these Anschütz barrels are very easy to replace, and in fact manufacturers such as Border Barrels provide off-the-shelf barrels for replacement if required. You can see the magazine well and magazine latch are an external fitting fitted to the receiver, and likewise so is the excellent trigger unit. Now, there isn't a recoil lug on this like we have seen on the full bore rifles that we've reviewed on the shooting show. Instead, we just have a wide surface area at the back of the receiver which fits snugly into the stock. Now, what might be a little bit of a surprise is that the stock isn't actually bedded. Now, would it improve the accuracy of this rifle if it was bedded? Probably, but this shoots so well that I would bet that you probably couldn't tell the difference anyway. I've used this rifle quite extensively over a number of months and it never fails to impress. The only reservation I've had about it is the safety catch, but despite this, it is still possibly the best rimfire on the market, and you would expect that from a manufacturer such as Anschütz. But then you are paying a price tag to match that level of engineering. If you're looking for a new rimfire, I strongly recommend you get yourself into a gun shop and get your hands on an Anschütz. If nothing else, just to use as a benchmark to judge all the other rifles against. There are some excellent rimfires on the market, and choice can sometimes be quite difficult. My own cabinet is filled with CZs, but a lot of my friends who've been buying rifles recently have come over to the Anschütz. It's unlikely that you will find anything else on the market that will shoot better, and they are a superb rifle, even if you are paying those extra few £100s. But with that said, go and have a look at them and make some judgments for yourself.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. We're out every Monday, 7:30 PM UK time. This is The Shooting Show.